Hello and welcome back to Yapping About Sports. Today is Sunday, August 2nd, 2026, and as of this very moment, Tarik Skubal is no longer a Detroit Tiger. He has been traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers in a three-prospect trade for Tarik Skubal, the two-time defending ERA champion, Cy Young Award winner out of the American League, and best left-handed pitcher in the major leagues as of this current moment, is now joining the two-time defending World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. And I'm sure the baseball world is not going to be too happy about it. I'm sure that a lot of fans, as I've already seen, and media members too, are already going to clamor about there being no baseball in 2027 due to this move. And would it be a possible butterfly effect from making this guy from Scott Harris making this trade to there not being baseball next season? I think this trade will have a major factor in it because when healthy, you have. For me, I'm always a fan. I think it's a cool thing around sports when each franchise has sort of one star player and at least one star player that they can sort of revolve around and, build around, and the fans can sort of love, and they either draft or they get them at a young age. Like Matthew Stafford, it would have been nice if the Lions would have been able to build a winner around Matthew Stafford before going and winning a Super Bowl in LA, or before the Tigers traded Justin Verlander to the Houston Astros and won a World Series, or just things like that. You just want each team to have one guy and to them draft and win with that said guy. And Steven Strasburg was the prime example for the Nationals in 2019. He was drafted by the organization, had highlights with the organization, and won a championship with all one organization. It's just a lot better of a feeling. And now if the Dodgers go in three-peat, it's people are going to say baseball isn't fun and this and that. And, I mean, I'm still going to watch baseball every night. I'm still going to be tuned into the Tigers because after tonight's win, mathematically are now just 2.5 games out of a playoff spot, even without Tarik Skubal. And I'll dig into that more in the conclusion because I believe in my heart of hearts either one of two things is going to happen post Tarik Skubal being traded, and it'll be an entirely different storyline depending on how many other names get traded along with him at this deadline. Does Casey Mize go? Does Gleyber Torres go? Jansen was able to get the job done tonight and close tonight's game in an 8-6 win over the Athletics. I'll dig into tonight's game also with Max Clark hitting his first career home run. But the focus right now is the trade for Tarik Skubal. The three prospects are outfielder Zaire Hope and two right-handed pitchers, River Ryan and Brady Smith, all ranked top 20 in the Dodger system coming in. Two of those prospects being in the top 100 in MLB. Hope will obviously be a left-handed outfielding prospect, so he will jump to the top of the Tigers' ranks pretty quickly. But it boils down to me for this. You can go down to it's going to look nice how they are in the minors. We got three prospects on paper, and it looks on paper like a good trade. But at the end of the day, if these three players don't result in the Detroit Tigers winning more baseball games and results in you eventually winning a World Series, and the Dodgers in this very season win a World Series with Tarik Skubal, the Dodgers would have won that trade in the end of things. Just like as of this current moment in football side, the Rams have still won their trade because they have the Super Bowl and are now in position, are going to be the favorites to win it again, or at least be the favorites out of the NFC. So Skubal is no longer a Detroit Tiger. I was glad, and I made it a point once you sort of got the feeling in the room at the beginning of last season that he would not be re-signing with the Detroit Tigers. So I made a point to go to as many starts as possible, complete games, striking out 13 on Sunday Night Baseball, going to Cleveland and striking out 14. He had his moments, and having, he was a lot of the reason that fans were in the stands, and that even in that last game against Baltimore, it was a perfect representation of his time with the Tigers. Is he gave you his all, gave you the best pitching that you could have seen for the majority of a baseball outside of him, and unfortunately, they just did not surround him with enough, whether it be bats or a bullpen, in order for the Tigers to keep winning with him on the roster. So You knew it wasn't going to happen. You knew it was probably going to happen at some point during this weekend, if not during the last moments of the deadline. Who knows if a better offer was out there, but the Dodgers are two-time defending World Series champions and somehow had 9 top 100 baseball prospects, so are just the clear-cut favorites and best team and organization in the sport, hands down, no questions asked, and they find a way to get themselves better. Yamamoto was on the mound tonight. They have Sasaki, Otani, Snell, Glasnow, depending on when they're all going to be back and healthy. But yeah, Tarik Skubal, now a Los Angeles Dodger, and no longer will be pitching in a Tigers uniform. Still a chance he makes another start in Comerica Park, as the Dodgers at the end of this month in August have a weekend series against the Tigers. 3 games set. I believe it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Comerica Park. So we shall see. We really shall see who ends up with the better end and better shake of things. All that you hope now is that the Tigers continue to find ways to win. As I shift into tonight's game, 8-6 winners. They were up 8-2. Valdez pitches 7 innings of baseball. Has a nice double play to get him out of an inning later in this one. But hey, not perfect. Still gave up, I think, 9 or 10 hits and 2 walks. So don't like having 10-plus base runners, but it's just the culmination of the season and sort of the definition of what this team has continued to be. Is it doesn't always have to look pretty, but if you win and you don't give up the runs you don't need to give up at times, and that's all it really boils down to is the result. And the result tonight was a win, and it wasn't always pretty. And Valdez giving up 2 earned runs and not giving up any further, but Jansen and Finnegan finding up a way to give up 4 runs in just 2 innings sort of goes to show that you just don't have trust right now in that bullpen. And there's a reason that Tarik Skubal, you really hope it doesn't turn into Justin Verlander 2.0, 3 prospects for 1 starting pitcher for the second half of a season to go win a World Series. If the Dodgers go win a World Series this year and the Tigers go into another slump and aren't able to, I think it will be a little bit different because you do have names still on the roster like Troy Melton and Jackson Jobe, and you have Framber Valdez if you're able to get the better half of him in the remainder of a Tigers uniform, and you have Reese Olson, Kiter Montero still in the works and working around. So we shall see what comes about, and obviously the 2 prospect names. So you've seen the Tigers sell before. You've seen them get prospects in the past. Not a lot of them have worked, and Jake Rogers was just traded to the Baltimore Orioles, so that was sort of the first signifier to me that Skubal was probably more than likely gone. No more starts with that battery. And you have to appreciate what he did on the field, but this season off the field and this offseason off the field with the arbitration and how him and Boris treated the Tigers in the recent weeks and especially recent days, I just don't think is going to sit well with a lot of fans. I don't think it, and it really shouldn't, in all honesty. But tonight's action, big-time action today. Kevin McGonigle and Max Clark. Yes, Max Clark, homers for the first time in a Tigers uniform in an 8-6 win. The Tigers were up 8-2 after 7 innings in this one, but improved to 53 and 58. I'm not going to put any false hope into this season. I think that Skubal may be the first of many names. I think minimally Tarik Skubal, Casey Mize, and Gleyber Torres need to be traded and flipped over for some form of MLB ready to soon to be MLB ready prospects. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you have names like Colt Keith and Hao-Yu Lee that can shift over to second base. Javi Baez can shift back into shortstop. And you have Max Clark now in center field. And if Kerry Carpenter comes back, you have him out in right. You have Riley Green, Zach McKinstry can rotate around. And still you have Kevin McGonigle and Baez that can rotate at short and play Kevin McGonigle and Colt Keith at third. So in Valencia and Dingler will be doing the catching, Valencia with a couple more base hits. So it's not that playoff-worthy team, I don't think so, but this Tigers team can still play a lot of exciting innings and a lot of exciting games of baseball, and they still have a very solid starting rotation like Troy Melton, and Jackson Jobe will be right around the corner to come back. So that's what I have for today's action. Tigers trade off Tarik Skubal. We'll go over the MLB trades once the MLB trade deadline is over and everything is settled and the dust is finalized from the trade deadline is when I will release all of that episode and reaction. But Tigers have won 2 straight games in Sacramento. And if for those fans and for the listeners that do have some form of hope still in the Detroit Tigers, I will say this. They have a series lined up with Seattle after this, a team directly in front of them in the American League standings. They are within 4 games, within 3 games as I'm recording this, of a wild card position after the Guardians and White Sox both lose again today in American League Central talk. Twins lose to the Mariners, so that also affects the wild card positioning directly with those 2 teams. So one of those 2 teams will be losing the next couple of days as well. So for those fans that have hope, the Giants are a very beatable team. We will see how you compete. The Mariners just traded off Louis Castillo, and they are in sell mode, it seems like. So we shall see. There is definitely some opportunity. The month of August will be the month of opportunity as you have series with the White Sox and the Guardians to come up here in the mid portion of August. So is it over mathematically? No. But if they don't figure out the bullpen situation, I really can't put any real hope until A, they're 500, or B, in one of those 3 wild card positions. So the White Sox, Guardians, and Twins still stand in their way. More realistically, the Guardians and White Sox, as the White Sox are still figuring out ways to win baseball games. But thank you again for listening. I will see you guys again on Monday on another edition of Yapping About Sports. Thank you all again for listening.